Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Barbara. I'm Barbara Kanellopoulos. My guest today is Kathleen Fox Alfano. Kathleen is a candidate for the office of State Representative for the 3rd Barnstable District. Welcome to the program, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me, Barbara.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming. So the 3rd Barnstable District, yes. I'm not sure that all viewers know what's that composed of.
The 3rd Barnstable now includes all of Mashpee, precincts 4, 5, and 6 in Bourne, which is the Bourne Bridge South. That now connects to North Falmouth. So in Falmouth, it's 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9.
Okay,
yes. So you catch that.
Yes.
So it will be 2/3 of Falmouth.
I see. So voters in those precincts
can vote for me
in November 8
or before.
Viewers, put that on your calendar.
Right.
Everyone should vote.
Right.
We'll be voting for you.
Right.
So now why do you see yourself as fit for that job?
Well, I see myself as fit for that job because I have been doing public service all my life. In Bourne, in particular, I am the chair of the Library Board of Trustees, and we are doing a lot of work with the library there. I'm also chair of the Bourne Wastewater Advisory Committee. That grew from my work on the Save the Canal Committee about 2 years ago or so. There was a proposal for Wareham Regional Plant to pipe to Mass Maritime and outfall directly into the Cape Cod Canal. They were looking at doing up to 10 million gallons a day of treated wastewater. We thought that this was an ecological disaster, an economic disaster. Many people fish in the canal. We also have beaches and homes along the canal. There are shellfish farms. They would all be affected by that adversely. So we fought that. I believe we have been successful, but it's not definite yet. But that's what sort of started my activism in clean water. Then, as I said, I became chair of the Wastewater Advisory Committee. I learned an awful lot about the effects of nitrogen in our saltwater, phosphorus in our ponds, and how many different ways we have to combat that, but we have to do it now. We can't wait. Just imagine Cape Cod without clean water. It would be, that's why we are here, before the water. I'm going to fight for that every way I can.
We're seeing now, too, how desperate the situation is when there isn't water, given what's happening in Florida.
Oh, my God. Yes, very true.
It is very real. Now, and speaking of the canals, I know that you have quite a concern about the proposed canal bridges.
Right.
Tell us what worries you about that.
Well, it worries me. First of all, we haven't got all the funding yet. It actually missed phase 1, but we believe phase 2 we will get the funding for that. The bridges are, 90 years old about, and they must be replaced. I mean, nobody wants this to happen in terms of the congestion and the traffic nightmares, but it has to happen. What I really am concerned about is we don't know, not just the design of the bridge, but the design of the access roads and the construction of the access roads and the timeline. People are going to lose their homes, businesses. We need to know what's going on, and we need somebody with a strong voice at the table, but also someone who will then communicate back to our residents and tell them the good, bad, and the ugly, because we need to know. And right now, everyone's just sort of hanging. Every time I go on a Zoom meeting or even in a physical meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers or Mass DOT, they say, we really don't know yet. Well, it's time to start, actually talking about what the plans are going to be.
And you want stakeholders to have a strong voice.
A strong voice, and also I would like, for instance, with the bridges being under construction, it's going to be very difficult to get from one side of the bridge to the other. In Bourne, our library is on the canal, the Cape side. So people who are in Sagamore Beach on the other side, it's going to take them forever to get to the library. So I want them to fund either a bookmobile or a satellite library or something like that so that we can continue services.
So any idea when some preliminary plans will be? out?
I would love to know.
Right.
We don't know yet.
But you're on the alert for.
We certainly are.
That's good.
Yes.
And I know that that you see plenty of issues, real serious ones here on the Cape, in Bourne and in Falmouth.
Yes.
With housing.
Yes, I am actually a realtor, so I know how to be creative and come up with ways to work with local leaders and with the state to get increased funding for workforce housing and for increased senior housing. I understand that there's a 10-year waiting list for senior housing. Well, that's totally unacceptable. And we all know now the ramifications of not having workforce housing. Anytime you go to a restaurant and they have to close early, or you can't get an MRI when you thought you could because they don't have the number of technicians. I mean, we could lose teachers, police, fire, nurses.
Yes, we're already
losing those people. And it has become so expensive to live here on the Cape, and we don't have a surplus of land either. So we're going to have to be creative. But we also have to build efficiently and with the environment in mind. So again, with the wastewater or whatever, we have to make sure that what we do doesn't harm the environment.
Any ideas about how, what the solution might be? Any sort of imaginative new proposals for housing?
I will tell you one that I discussed with Kim Driscoll, who's running for lieutenant governor, and she talked about having workforce housing right near wherever the person is going to be working. For instance, have some workforce housing at the schools for teachers. It's also like it used to be 100 years ago where people just walked to work, so we didn't have the pollution and the cars and all that. Down by the hospital, have workforce housing there. I would even go so far as to say, to get into that housing, you have to have a letter proving that you're working here in the town, and have a lesser rent, something truly affordable. And I think that would be one solution. I'm sure there are many.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So some thoughts, some municipalities are looking at building on Main Street so people don't have to, they can walk to there.
That's right.
Shopping and that sort of thing.
That's right. And do the multi-use. I know we've started to do that. I know we have some of it here in Falmouth. Other towns can certainly learn from that, where you have retail on the first floor, but housing above.
Yeah. And besides water, you've got other environmental concerns. Can you talk about some of those?
Yes, but I have to say clean water is my number one.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I'm going to immediately start working on that is to form a clean water caucus at the State House and get together all my friends who have, they're representing, the coastline or rivers, lakes, all the places where water is vital, and get together, come up with solutions, work with experts, and get this done. The other thing about water is, of course, we're looking at sea level rise. Sea level rise is predicted to be almost 3 feet in 30 years. That's not much time. We have to work with the experts all around the country to come up with ways to help us if we get that much water. And then look at what happened, like what we talked about, the hurricane in Florida. That went from a Category 2 to a Category 4 in no time because it hit the warm waters that used to be 79 degrees. Now they're 86 degrees. That's what fueled this hurricane and made it so disastrous. It can happen here as well.
Yes. So what accounts for the lag that some are still not alerted to this and ready to do something now? Is it
because it's going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it. It isn't going to be fun, but we have to do it because the ramifications are too great.
And I suppose the planning has to be regional.
Definitely.
You have to have the Cape Cod Commission.
Yes.
Also our commissioners all involved in the planning.
Right. I am a really good collaborator. I'm a good communicator, so I will work with all of those people. And I have to say that I really don't think that any one party or any one person has a monopoly on all the good ideas. We need to work together. Yes. This is a serious, non-partisan issue that has to be addressed today.
Yes, with all aspects, with science, with
Yes.
municipal government, all of it.
All of them, all of
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yes, and we have to be transparent. We have to tell everybody what's going on.
yes,
They might not want to hear some of the things that have to be done, but if we don't do it, we're sunk,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. Yes, taxpayers are not going to be happy with some solutions,
No,
but
but
yeah, that's the reality.
it is unfortunately the reality.
Right, right. Now, what are the other issues on Cape Cod that you're concerned about?
I am very concerned about women's rights, women's issues. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see Roe versus Wade overturned.
Right.
We're safe here in Massachusetts, but there are other concerns as well. Women still only make 80% of what men make here on the Cape. Too many girls are not mentored to be as, do everything they want to do. Especially BIPOC girls are left, without mentors, without the opportunity for education that others have, and we have to fix that right away. Right, so I would love to start a mentoring program in the middle school or maybe the high school, or have college-age girls working with the middle school girls, that sort of thing, to give them the confidence that they can do anything they want.
Do you think that in our schools too we can do more to hire minority teachers so that?
I do, but I think that it's more that people that we have need to know, be educated as to what's appropriate and what's not, and I think that is just as important.
Let's tell viewers something about your background, other things that you've done that
Sure.
you feel as if has been given you the skills to take on the job of representative.
I've been the chair of the Bourne Community Engagement Committee, the Bourne Cultural Council. I'm on the Historic Committee, and as I said, I have been years on as a trustee of a library, and now I've learned so much about water. I seem to be, no matter what I join, I seem to wind up being the chairman or the president or whatever.
Yeah.
It just seems to happen
Yeah.
without my even trying. I feel that I have a lot of allies up at the State House already. I've spoken to quite a few people. I have spoken to the Speaker of the House. I am ready to hit the ground running. My first day, people say, what are you going to do your first day? Well, I've already started. I'm not waiting for my first day. I'm already talking to people, again, about the things that are concerning to us, so that when I actually get to the State House, I'll have allies. And we can start, sponsoring bills, writing legislation, and getting things passed.
So you are poised then not to find things all that easy.
Right.
I know Massachusetts legislature is not noted for its transparency.
This is true.
And now people are talking about although historically Massachusetts is right up there, the first constitution, the city on a hill, but people are talking about the fact that politics is pretty much transactional, and there's newcomers, which you will be, have to wait their turn. Seniority has a lot of power, as does leadership. So what do you think? Are you going to be able to handle all that?
I certainly am. I'm not going to waste time. I'm not a child. I will get in there and I'll make things happen. I think the first thing that I would do, as I said, is find allies. I already have talked to several people in the leadership who want to mentor me. So I will be, like I said, I won't be just any old freshman. I
Yes.
can't believe I'll be a freshman. That's so funny.
Right.
After all these years, but
Yes, yes.
but I guess technically I will be. But I have, like I said, I have been having lunch. I've been talking to people who are in the State House, who tell me who to work with and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to just be going in the blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently building relationships is critical.
It is the whole key. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I already have relationships, and I will continue to build on that. And I have a cause that really speaks to a lot of people, and that's the clean water. Once we get going with that, I think we will really be able to move.
So what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I have 2 rescue dogs,
Ah.
who I love dearly. One of them was abandoned in an abandoned house in Houston, Texas. He tried to gnaw his way out, so he's missing his 4 front teeth. And fortunately, a rescue group found him and treated him. He had mange, he was a bag of bones. You know, it was really a desperate situation. And he's healthy now, and I call him Lucky because he is lucky, but it turns out I'm lucky to have him.
Yes. You took him on when he was?
No, he was fairly healthy by the time
I
I got him.
I see.
But what this showed me is how difficult it is to transport dogs from down south, where they're treated like a spare tire, up here where they're members of a family. There's way too many regulations. There is expense to it, not just the transportation, but they have to be thoroughly vetted down south. But then when they have to be, same thing happens, 3 days later when they hit Massachusetts. There's a quarantine period. None of the states surrounding Massachusetts have this, so people wind up going to Rhode Island or Vermont or New Hampshire or even Maine to get dogs.
Oh, I had no
this
idea.
Yes, I know. It's a problem. We have to slim that down, and I also want to increase funding for shelters because, like I said, dogs are near and dear to my heart, and most people agree.
Yes, yes. So you have a long list, and
Yes.
but priorities.
Priorities. Yes, my priorities. Like I said, the first one is, of course, water. I'm also concerned about gun violence prevention. When we watch TV and we're all crying, it's just horrible. We have to make sure that doesn't ever happen here. How do we do that? We have, again, education, and we have to tighten any kind of regulations we can on assault weapons. Did you read the article about Littleton up in Littleton, Massachusetts? There is a warehouse that I would call a gun craft store. You can buy a piece here and a piece there, bring it home, and put it together, and now you have a machine gun.
That is awful.
That is awful. We have to stop that now.
Yeah, right. How long have you lived in Bourne?
I've actually lived on the Cape for over a decade. I moved to Bourne in 18. Yeah.
And before that?
Canton. I lived in
see.
Canton.
I
I was very involved there I was the campaign manager for a lot of people.
Really?
And I was, again, a library trustee. I started 2 community theaters that are ongoing now for 20 years. I've been a producer, writer, director, and actress. So I love all that.
You're right. So that you just picked up in Bourne and continued yours.
That's right.
Civic responsibility, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Any thoughts about why people don't necessarily vote? Usually midterm elections don't pull out voters as much as national elections, and it's a mystery. Why is
It is.
this?
I always say that everybody gets out to vote for the president, but really your most important election is your
Yes.
local election,
Yes.
where your vote truly counts much, much more. Not that we shouldn't vote for president, of course,
Right.
but I think I have a platform of things that people are really, truly concerned about, and that should help drive them to the
I would
polls.
think so. Well, some people feel as if the relationship between the representative and the voter gets more and more distant. The communication, sometimes the representative goes off to the State House, and then there's
Never to
kind
be
of this
seen.
long silence.
right.
And so
That will not happen with me.
That makes people cynical.
It
won't
does. It does. Here's, like I said, I love to communicate.
Yeah.
So here's my plan. I will have quarterly newsletters. I will do local access.
Newsletters,
Yes, yes. On email or whatever. I will have local access television shows where we will sit down with you or anybody and in the 3 different towns and talk about what's going on. And again, I will be honest. I will be transparent. Tell you the problems and the solutions.
Yeah.
And I will also have advertised office hours consistently in the 3 different towns, and then if if a group needs to talk, I will certainly go and speak with them. So I will be as open about everything as I possibly can be, and I will communicate.
That's very good. And constituent services.
Yes. I think listening to the people, learning what are their concerns and then taking action is the main thing that I'll be doing.
Yes, then you will bring to the State House
Right.
real issues.
True
that
issues.
are troubling.
That's right, and I'll do something about them.
Yes,
Yeah, that's my plan.
right. And so the election is coming right up.
Yes, and there's many ways to vote. You know, the days of vote on November 8th are over. Now you can vote by mail. You can vote early voting. Starts October 22nd at your town hall, and that goes, I think, until November 4th, and then November 8th you can go to your polling place. So there's no excuse anymore for not voting. They've made it very easy, and my opponent voted against that.
Really? I wonder why.
I don't know.
Did you mention voting by mail? Because I know many.
Yes. It's so easy, especially for seniors.
Yes.
You know, and you don't know if it's going to be raining on the 8th or, you know, who knows.
Right.
So it is easier to just be at home where you can take your time, you know, mark your ballot and, you know, put it in the mail or drop it in a box.
Yeah. Certainly your work with the library has brought your attention to the fact that there is some concern about something that we didn't think would be happening, and that is censorship.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that libraries are a key to our culture, to our continued education, well, education when you're a child and then continuing education. I am not for banning books. I understand that there are some books that don't necessarily belong in the children's section, but once you're an adult, you know, I think that knowledge is power, and you may not agree with everything you read. If you don't like it, put it down, but don't stop me from reading it.
And it would seem to me that librarians have their own groups who do approve of certain books that come in, and so it isn't as if librarians are not very well aware of what they should be buying for libraries.
Right.
And I think there's
and there are methods.
Level of trust.
Right, there are methods. I mean, if someone just complains and says, you know, I didn't like this book, there was a scene in it that's really disturbing, that's one thing. Or they could do an official complaint, and that has to be reviewed, whatever. But it's up to the librarian to decide, you know, and they aren't an island. You know, I, particular, am working with not just the Bourne Library, but I'm, you know, working with Falmouth Library and the Mashpee Library, so we can work together on issues, you know, and also on programming, because, you know, we can, if we work together, we can bring great authors in, you know, and say at Falmouth High School or somewhere where everyone can come and listen. So I want to do, you know, bigger things.
Librarians are going to know that they've got a friend at the State House.
Yes, they do. They certainly do have a friend at the State House. I mean, I've loved libraries since I was 4.
Yes.
You know, I've always been a reader.
Yeah. So. And what is it like being on the campaign trail?
I actually love it. It is. I'm meeting so many wonderful people. I'm learning about so many different issues, and it is sort of bringing together everything that I've done in my life. Is sort of led up to this because, like I said, I've been a producer in theater. I've been a print production manager, creative director for printing materials, for books, and for, you know, advertising, also promotions, all sorts of things. So it's all the same thing. It's taking everybody's the best of different ideas and bringing it together.
So, shall we say you're having some fun?
I actually am. I know that sounds funny, but I am, and I am very supported by other candidates as well, and that is a great feeling. We are all pulling for each other, we're all learning from each other, and I hope that come November 9th, we will all be working together.
Great. That's so good to hear, because we want young people and those in our audience to know that public office, civic responsibility it can be very enjoyable. Very life-enhancing.
Yes, it is. I mean, when you have plans, when you have something you want to accomplish, it's much easier.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you got some final things you want to say to viewers?
Yes. Thank you so much for watching. I have many different reasons for wanting to run, but clean water is number one. It's something we all share, that we all have to do something about now. I will be a collaborator with all of the towns, and the State House, to bring the best that I can for our region. I will have open hours where people can come and talk to me and tell me what is their concerns, and I will listen and take action. I will let you know what's going on at Beacon Hill, and I will do something to make our region a great place to live.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
and
you.
Also, thank you for taking on a job like this, for being concerned about the public service.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you. It's my honor,
Yes.
really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with Barbara.